One could just let us know that's cool. We don't want to miss anything this evening, so. Give it one more minute. A couple folks still coming in. I wish I could see everybody's faces at once, but I know we all have multiple pages of faces because there's so many people joining us tonight. So exciting. Hi, Sue and Don. All right. Well, I think we'll get started. Welcome to Learning as We Grow, reflecting back, looking forward. I've been saying those words as our communications person for a while now, and so it's really exciting to finally be here, finally be doing this. We're so excited that all of these wonderful people are tuning in, and we know that your time is precious. So thank you so much for choosing to spend your evening with us. We have a great program planned for you tonight. I'm Hannah Flanders. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the co-founder and assistant director of community engagement at the Kearsarge Food Hub, and I am delighted to be guiding us through this evening. I just wanted to give a brief overview of what everyone can expect tonight. We will watch our Tedx talk, Becoming Ourselves, How to Grow Community. And the best part about that is we're going to have a follow-up Q&A and discussion period with 4 of our founders here tonight. And then we're going to have our executive directors, Franz and Lauren, walk us through a brief presentation highlighting how we're serving our mission today and how we've grown since taking the TEDx stage, which was actually back in 2019. And then I'm going to chime in to share a little bit about our vision for the future. And we will wrap things up with another Q&A and discussion period and close things off as close to 8 p.m. as humanly possible. We respect your time. We want to end on time. And like I mentioned, we have a lot of ground to cover. So just a couple housekeeping items. I bet everybody's pretty familiar with this Zoom scene by now. We have our Director of Community Engagement, Tara, keeping an eye on the chat box. Tara. So you can leave your questions, comments, thoughts in the chat at any time throughout the evening, and we'll address those in our Q&A periods. If you want your questions to be anonymous, it's totally okay. You can send them directly to Tara rather than sending them to the whole group. And I see a lot of folks with their videos on. That's awesome. And it's totally up to you if you want your video on or not, but it's so great to see these faces, and just another reminder that we are recording this evening. And we recommend that you keep it in gallery view so that you can see all of the faces. And when I share my screen for portions of the evening, it should kind of tuck away to the side so you can see the content that we have. And finally, if you feel comfortable and so inclined, you can introduce yourself in the chat and let us know where you're tuning in from, or maybe what you're sipping on, if you have some tea, or if you're eating some supper, or let us know, where you're coming from and what you're up to. And just to recap all of that, Tara has popped all those notes so you don't have to memorize them in the chat. All right, so to kick things off, I'm actually really excited to start with a welcome video from our board chair, Leon Milan. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm not sure if Leon's in yet. He's actually teaching a class a little bit later tonight, so he'll be joining us at some point, but we get to hear from him right now. Beginning. Okay.
I'm Leon Milan. I'm the chair of the board of directors of the Kearsarge Food Hub. I'm also at the same time a member of faculty at Colby Sawyer College, and I teach in environmental studies. And
Hannah, you're muted, and we can't hear the video.
All right.
Educator.
Let me go back. Yeah, sorry about that. I was like, I don't want you to hear
College. And I teach in environmental studies and science. One of my areas of interest has always been food, agriculture, and food systems. I'll start off with a quote from the Brazilian philosopher and educator Paulo Freire, who said, "We make the road by walking it." And the Kearsarge Food Hub has never been afraid to take the steps to make that road. if I could go back to that time that I bumped into this really energetic, enthusiastic person, he was just completing his degree at UNH in gastroecology. And so I bumped into Garrett Bauer, and he was just full of energy and enthusiasm about this vision, this vision of a place where we could aggregate all of the food and we can get the community involved in food and build the community and at the same time restore the health of the soil. I mean, that just spoke my language. And then of course I learned that there were a bunch of other folks as well that came back to their roots, so to speak. And so that was kind of my introduction and connection to the Kearsarge Food Hub. And so at the moment I'm on the board, and with a group of other wonderful people on the board, I'm really very honored and proud to serve that vision. In the rest of the program this evening, we'll learn a lot more about all the different ways in which the Kearsarge Food Hub is growing and learning. It is in our connection to the community that we learned a great deal. In January 2020, the word global pandemic was not part of many organizations' strategic plans. So when COVID hit, the Kearsarge Food Hub had to respond in many different ways. Very early on, the Kearsarge Food Hub and a number of other partners in the area, the Kearsarge Neighborhood Partners, Commissar College, New London Hospital, Spring Ledge Farm, food pantries, all responded to establish an initiative that we called Feed Kearsarge, food, expansion, education, and distribution. The Kearsarge Food Hub became instrumental in this program to educate people about growing food, distributing seedlings to gardeners, increasing the amount of food to food pantries, strengthening the community. And through all of that learning, we demonstrated, our mission. We demonstrated how to grow engaged learners. We demonstrate how to cultivate food sovereignty. We demonstrated how to nurture our community. So these aren't just statements on a piece of paper. In the process, we learn how to live this. So there are many, many ways in which we learned as we grew. And there are certainly many ways in which we made the road by taking these steps. And at the same time, this is where I go right back to Garrett, the Kearsarge Food Hub is not just learning for the sake of learning or growing for the sake of growing. Our path, the road that we are taking these steps on, is guided by this vision of a resilient and connected community, a community where everybody is empowered to access healthy food, a place where all those local farmers, where they are supported, where the land is nourished and respected, and where everybody share a common sense of place. So yes, we learned as we grew, but I think we continue learning and walking in the direction of the vision that guides us. As we have the theme of this evening, as we talk about how we're learning as we're growing, we have to think of what made it possible. And there is so much to be thankful for. None of this growth would have been possible without the very generous support of countless numbers of people. There are a number of donors to help us grow, and we are deeply grateful to each and every one of them. Our customers who come to the market and the cafe and are remaining loyal to us through all this period. At the same time, the learning will not be possible without dedicated and enthusiastic staff who are committed to the vision. And then we found ourselves also in this very resilient community where there are lots of networks and lots of connections. And so we are truly blessed to be surrounded by just so many people and so many organizations who share this journey with us. This evening is just one way in which we can show our gratitude and our appreciation to all of those who help us learn as we grow.
Yay. Thank you, Leon. Leon is a gift to the community. We are so grateful to have him leading our board, and he actually just received the Educator of the Year award from NOFA, New Hampshire. So that is an exciting accolade for Leon, much deserved. He is really a tremendous community member. So thank you, Leon. I'm not sure if he's in here yet, but he will be. All right, cool. Well, before we dig into the TEDx talk, we do just want to do a quick round of introductions of the 4 founders that you're going to be hearing from tonight. Again, my name is Hannah Flanders. I'm the Assistant Director of Community Engagement, and I focus on marketing and communications and making things look nice. And I will pass it on to Lauren.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Howard. I am a co-founder and co-executive director. My focus is in kind of the financial management, administration side of things. I also oversee operations and work on KFH strategy long-term.
And you're darn good at all of that. So we'll pass it on next to Pierre.
Hello, everyone. I'm Pierre Hahn. I am also a co-founder, and I am the lead on the farm and also with farm education.
Yes. So integral. All right, we'll pass it off to Franz.
Hi, everyone. I'm the other co-executive director. My focus is sort of our programs, our community services, education, community building, and food security. And I'm also sort of representing Garrett Bauer, another co-founder. He is our cafe and kitchen manager. He's also my husband, and we are working parents. And so tonight he is parenting our 4-month-old child, and so that I can be here with you all. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Maybe we'll see an appearance of baby Olivier tonight. Not sure, no pressure. And I absolutely must give a very special shout out to Kathleen Bigford, who is here tonight. Kath, if you want to raise your hand or give a little reaction, you can. Kathleen is a co-founder. She's been with us since the beginning. She's an emeritus board member, and I did say that word correctly. And if you ever visit Sweet Beet Farm at West Road, you will notice that our nursery, where all of our baby seedlings come to life, is dedicated to Kathleen, and thanks to all of her service. So thank you, Kathleen. So happy to have you tonight. And I believe there are many other staff and board members joining us tonight. So I want to give an opportunity for those folks to wave or give a little reaction, a little heart, whatever feels good. We have just this beautiful growing team. And like Leon talked about, one of the themes of tonight, one of the themes of our growth is really the amount of people and community and networks that have really built around the vision of the Food Hub. So that leads us nicely into the TEDx watch party portion of the evening. Back in 2019, in the fall of 2019, the Kearsarge Food Hub was invited to participate in the first ever TEDx Concord event at the Red River Theater. And the theme was rebuilding. And we were so excited and a little bit nervous about this big opportunity. It was my honor to write and deliver the talk on behalf of the Kearsarge Food Hub. And the theme for me that I kind of whittled down and working on that project was, it really is all about community. So the title of the talk is Becoming Ourselves, How to Grow Community. And it is the story of the Food Hub and our lessons learned. It definitely feels like lifetimes ago, given everything that we've all gone through since then. But I think that some of the messages in there are evergreen, I hope. So without further ado, we'll transition and watch the TEDx talk. And I won't mute myself this time. And it's here. Breakfast is something that's always come easy to me. And by that, I mean, I've been lucky to always have enough to eat. And for a long time, I never questioned what was on my plate. It was in college that I started to learn things about my food that turned my whole world upside down. For instance, I didn't know that artificial fertilizers from farms in 31 US states pollutes the Mississippi River, dumping into the Gulf of Mexico where it feeds algal blooms that consume all the oxygen and create a dead zone where no life can survive. I also didn't know that most modern farms look like this. One single crop planted as far as the eye can see, year after year. When the crop is harvested, the soil is left bare, and this process relies on heavy machinery, fossil fuels, and chemical inputs, all of which decimate the soil. We've lost 50% of the Earth's topsoil in the last 150 years. But perhaps the hardest thing I learned was how we treat animals in factory farms. Contrary to the happy agrarian scenes you see in kids' books, with the barnyard animals and the rolling pasture, the truth is more like a Margaret Atwood novel. In concentrated feeding operations, we pack animals in by the thousands, pumping them full of cheap grain, antibiotics, and hormones. It's not only incredibly cruel, but it's highly unsanitary, creating breeding grounds for infectious disease and polluting our land and water. Learning all of this, I had to ask, are humans at least better off? No. The food produced by this system, highly refined grains, processed foods, cheap meat, they're the leading causes of obesity, cancer, type 2 diabetes, and heart disease. Furthermore, the industrial food system is the leading cause of climate change, poverty, and ironically, food insecurity. Learning all of this, I became heartbroken. And this is really just the tip of the iceberg. And then I became angry. How have we allowed this to happen? And why wasn't anybody talking about it? Well, actually, some people were talking about it. A group of my old high school friends were on this very same path to waking up to this harsh reality. So getting to know all of this, we had a choice to make. You all know it. Take the blue pill. Wake up in your bed, go out for a steak, forget all about it. Or take the red pill and see how far the rabbit hole goes. Obviously, we chose the latter, or I wouldn't be here talking to you today. We had to do something. So after graduating college, we did a little something risque, a little something taboo, and we moved home to the middle of nowhere, New Hampshire. And although we didn't know quite what it was, we started to set off a news story, and it started with our breakfast. Now, the industrial food system is getting away with this largely because it's anonymous and it's hidden. We wanted to get to know where our food was coming from. We wanted to bring food security to our community and support farmers and sustainable farming practices. So we started building a local food hub, the Kearsarge Food Hub. And we began not by drafting a detailed business plan or taking out big loans, but with a low investment pilot project. First, we started our own small farm, Sweet Beet Farm, on land lent to us by very supportive community members. And then we started building a farm stand, once again with architectural plans donated by a supportive community member. And what was an empty field began to take on new life. I skipped over it. There it is, taking on new life. And on July 4th, 2015, Sweet Beet Farm Stand opened for business in the heart of Bradford, New Hampshire. Much to our delight, people came. Some of you are in this room. And for the next 2 years, we operated out of the stand. It was fast and crazy and hectic. And we were learning not only how to grow our own food, but how to order, collect, store, display, and sell local food of all kinds from over 30 producers within a 30-mile radius. We were building trust with farmers, and we were gaining support in the community. In the fall of 2016, an interesting opportunity presented itself. Another local company, Unless, was interested in investing in young entrepreneurship and creating more opportunities in our community. And they had purchased a beautiful old inn on the other side of town at 11 West Main Street that had been sitting empty and unused for 15 years. They invited us to partner with them to help reinvigorate the space as a community resource. And so, true to our Sweet Beet ethos, we got right to work helping out with the renovations in the building. And then we moved Sweet Beet Farm Stand, where it graduated to a year-round indoor market at 11 West Main Street. Now, in this new space, we've been building our capacity to move food from farm to fork, and we've been celebrating small incremental upgrades in infrastructure along the way. Because we are total geeks, this is how excited we were when we received a grant for a new point of sale system to help us manage sales and inventory and track data. So exciting. And this is how excited we were when we raised $5,000 from the community for new upright display freezers. This helps us sell more local meat as a critical alternative to factory farm options. And now Sweet Beet Market is open the same hours, the same place all year long as a reliable destination for people seeking not only local food, but the story behind the food. With all the space in this old building, we were able to get to work on another project, building a commercial kitchen. Once again, we got right to work on the ground floor renovations. We raised over $32,000 from our community to put toward kitchen equipment. And after navigating the magical world of food safety and licensing, last fall, Sweet Beet Kitchen finally opened. Among other uses, the space functions as a bakery because we believe that the town baker is a powerful and age-old symbol of community cohesion around food. Major growth has also been happening on Sweet Beet Farm over the past few years. We envisioned and built new fields on land owned by Hub members. We built high tunnels and greenhouses to help extend our growing season. And we've paid particular attention to building soil, using cover crops and living mulches, bringing in local manure, compost, and wood ash, and experimenting with tools that help us minimize our impact on the earth. Now, Sweet Beet Farm is a vibrant and ever-evolving space for exploring regenerative methods to grow safe and nutritious foods for our community. We've been growing not only physical infrastructure, but a nonprofit organization from the ground up. So that means lots of this, and this. None of us have any formal training in this work, but because we're willing to ask questions, do research, and seek advice from our mentors, and we have a lot of mentors, we are able to figure it out as we go. We're also building operational systems in all of our departments, farm, market, and kitchen. Here's France, working on our homemade spreadsheet titled What Goes Where. As you might have guessed, it literally tells us what products are coming from which farms and what markets it's going to. We serve not only Sweet Beet Market, but local restaurants, Warner Public Market, and more importantly, food pantries. We've also been building an identity around inclusivity, where everyone is welcome to come participate, and we have an excellent team of volunteers, ages from their 20s all the way to retired folks who help us out on a weekly basis. But perhaps most importantly, we've been building team dynamic. We're all friends learning how to do business together. We're each finding our own leadership roles in the organization and learning how to support and respect each other as we co-create this totally unique thing. It's not always this pretty, I promise you that. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. All along, we have been open and transparent. We've been emphasizing collaboration and building partnerships in the community. When we opened our commercial kitchen, and with the continued support and guidance of building owners on Less, we were able to rent the space to a couple ladies in town who then opened the Village Cafe. When a group of friends in the town next door set off to open their own local food market, Warner Public Market, we sat down around the table and we figured out how we could collaborate. To this day, we work together on a weekly basis to share ideas, information, and infrastructure to achieve our mutual goal of more local food in the community. But perhaps the collaboration I'm most proud of is with our local schools. We've welcomed students from first grade all the way through college level to come share in our learning process. Nobody describes it better than Dylan from John Stark High School.
Like my third or so time here, and it's amazing. I felt the strong relationship with not only my friends, but these plants. It's really fun. It made me realize how people can put down their phone for at least an hour or so and start doing some stuff.
Amen, Dylan. So after 5 intense years of building the Kearsarge Food Hub and all of its intricate parts, last spring we were able to say thanks to all of the people who have supported us, everyone who's donated their time, their money, skills, or land to help this whole thing come to life. We prepared for them a meal in our kitchen, and then we gathered on the lawn to eat and chat. It was then that we realized what's really going on here. It's more than just sustainability through farming and health through local food. It's about civic and social responsibility. It's about resilience through growing community. People often ask, how do you guys do it? What's your secret to success? And I tell them, we're just an exceptionally talented group of people and nobody can do what we've done. I'm kidding. We've had so much support. We've worked very hard and we've made sacrifices, but there's also a special sauce involved. And in the spirit of equity and community building efforts everywhere, I'm going to share that special sauce with you today. Ingredient number 1, slow down. Before doing anything and on a regular basis, take a step back, take a deep breath. We are on a magnetic, water-covered, life-giving rock flying through outer space. It's a goddamn miracle and a mystery and a gift. Gratitude for this gift should be the starting point for all that we do. Now, I'm not saying there is an urgency to the problems we face. There absolutely is. The house is on fire. But the way we approach problem solving matters. Grinding away at work without an appreciation of the bigger picture leaves us feeling stuck and burnt out. Slowing down creates space for not only gratitude, but for learning how to ask the right questions and for finding creative solutions. Number two. Now more than ever, we need to work on finding common ground. There are so many things that unite us. Food is an easy one. We all have to eat. But food is so much more than sustenance. Food is medicine. Food is ritual and tradition. It connects us to ourselves, to each other, and the earth. It is a worthy investment, deserving of our time and attention. Now, finding common ground doesn't mean we all have to be the same. Actually, quite the opposite. It provides the fertile soil on which we can more fully embrace our differences and learn how to work together. Show up, or in more elegant words, put down your phone and start doing some stuff. There is no substitute for participation and effort. Showing up doesn't mean being forceful. It means being present, paying attention, and being willing to do the work. For us, showing up helped us test a bunch of different things, not all of which worked out, but each in their own way showed us where we were heading. But it also helped us build trust in our community, and that has been the bedrock for all we've been able to accomplish. Systems thinking. Ingredient number 4. Peter Sang says, vision without systems thinking ends up painting a lovely picture of the future with no understanding of the forces that must be mastered to move from here to there. And so systems thinking is a disciplined approach for examining problems more fully before taking action. It's a method of design that can and should be applied to all fields of work. More than that, though, systems thinking is an underlying philosophy that the nature of our world is circular. We are all, including humans, interconnected. For this lesson, of course, nature is our greatest teacher. We must listen to her. When I set off wanting to help rebuild the food system, I wanted to save the planet. I didn't give a damn about the humans. We are the ones, after all, causing all of this damage. But as I've matured in my understanding of the problem, I've come to understand that to save the planet, we have to save the humans. Which brings me to my 5th and final ingredient, humanity itself. If you take just one thing away from this story, let it be this. The key to positive change is in each and every one of us. To access that key, We simply must turn inward, ask ourselves, what does it mean to be human? What do we need to be okay, to be able to make the world a better place? You see, the way I see it, humans have been hungry, but we've been misunderstanding what we're really hungry for. It's not cheap pleasures or more stuff. We're hungry for depth, for purpose and connection. We're all on this journey to becoming whole, and it is messy and uncomfortable. But still, this journey belongs in our daily lives, in our public spaces and in our communities and in our work. Allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and embrace the humanity in ourselves and each other has the power to unlock the best parts of ourselves. Compassion and patience, creativity, courage, and intuition. Nurturing these qualities will help us build beautiful things, help us solve these problems we're facing, and help us become truly fulfilled. And once you have this special sauce all mixed up, the next step is to share. There is an abundance in sharing. Humans are social, collaborative creatures. We share everything from physical space and food to intangible things like ideas and stories. It's the stories we share that give us the power to be greater than the sum of our parts. We can't control the stories we inherit from those that come before us. All we can control is what we choose to contribute in return. When I first learned about my food, I was angry to be inheriting such a destructive story. But I've come to realize it's not my weight to bear. It's not my fault, but it sure as hell is my responsibility. It's all of our responsibilities to move the story forward and arc it just a little bit more toward truth and justice, because we are ultimately passing the story on to our kids. We have to answer to them. So it turns out, our journey building a food hub became a community movement. What started as a story about breakfast became a story about the breakfast table. Not only what's on your plate, but who's sitting at the table. Wendell Berry, as usual, says it best. Our place of safety can only be the community, but not just one community, many of them everywhere. Upon that depends all that we still claim to value: freedom, dignity, health, mutual help and affection, undestructive pleasure, and the rest. Human life, as most of us would still like to define it, is community life. Thank you. Okay, there it was. Leon's here. Hi, Leon. Hi, everybody. Well, that was what we were thinking about in 2019.
I'm a professionally trained chef who advocates for people to cook and eat together.
Sorry. I was like, somebody's chiming in from a chef's perspective. That's great. Yeah, so that's kind of our story leading up to 2019, and a lot has happened since then. So we would love to open things up for a little bit of discussion, questions, comments, thoughts. We're excited to hear what you think, whatever it might be. And Tara's
superb presentation. Superb.
Thanks, Harry. Let's see.
So we want everybody, if you could, to put your questions into the chat. That would be great. And Hannah, actually, I'm going to kick one off with you.
Okay.
What's your response to watching this talk now? What might you include or say differently today?
Good question. I've been thinking a lot about that. For one, it's weird to watch myself like that. I don't know if anybody's ever had that experience. One thing that absolutely strikes me now has been a blind spot of mine, which was when we talk about how we've been able to build this and make a joke about it, but there's an element of privilege that we absolutely have to talk about. You know, all of us who had the resources and time and went to college and learned about these issues from a distance. Myself, you know, not experiencing as a person on planet Earth the worst of these consequences, and really focusing on the destruction of the planet. And that's really my entry point. But now I'm very much more awake to the human suffering at the hands of the system, and how that suffering is unevenly distributed, and how there are roots of racism that we must address, so closely tied to our food system. And so that's definitely something that we're thinking about more now and talking about and integrating into the work. And from me too, just to acknowledge that I'm grateful for all of the support and resources and opportunity to pursue this path. But it's definitely not that way for many, many, many people. I could say one more thing, just real quick, is that another element for me that I've been thinking a lot more since that, giving that, is that food doesn't have a moral value for people with financial barriers or a host of things going on in their lives. There isn't really the opportunity to think about the hidden costs of food and to make choices based on that. And that's something that we're talking about too in the Food Hub as well, which is, you know, people make the choices they have to make to feed themselves. And sometimes that food, unfortunately, creates consequences later on, but feeding yourself now versus, you know, not, I mean, for some folks, that's just the only choice. So we're going to dig into a little bit more about how we're thinking about that at the Food Hub as well, and some of the ways we're going to look at addressing that.
So Lauren, I have a question here that I think you can address. Maybe you and I can tag team it a little bit. New businesses are hard to start, and many have closed doors during the pandemic. What does the financial security of Kearsarge Food Hub look like for the future?
That's a big one. Yeah, I mean, the pandemic has had varied effects on different businesses. We were fortunate enough to actually see a huge boost in our sales activity throughout the pandemic. Especially April was off the charts. Lots of meat purchases specifically. But in terms of impacts for the long term, what we're really focused on and have been focused on since the beginning is having diversified income streams. So as Hannah said, you know, we started out with a farm and farm stand operation and have used those kinds of economic engines to drive our gradual growth throughout the years. And we've been likewise leveling up our fundraising efforts. Many thanks to Tara and to Hannah for driving that in a direction that will really support us long term. And we've had a ton of incredible amount of generous donors supporting us along the way. And that has not only been supportive financially, but also psychologically and emotionally. Yeah, if you want to add some more, Tara, to that.
Just the community support is unbelievable. And our community support, I think, is going to be a big part of that. It's important to remember that we are a nonprofit. We are a nonprofit business. And so part of that is that we belong to you all, the community, and you all help us stay financially afloat. So thank you for that. Let's see. Pierre, what are some of the projects you're most excited about this year and envisioning coming in the next year or two?
I'm excited about all kinds of projects on the farm. I actually like to share a couple facts that I found that really have been invigorating me towards the projects that I'm working on. But the first one is, according to the CDC and the University of Iowa, farmers have the highest suicide rates among any profession in our country, which I did not know that. And another one is, at current rates of soil degradation, we have about 60 harvests left, or 60 years left of topsoil. This is mostly because of unsustainable agricultural practices, particularly plowing the top 12 inches of the soil and monocropping. And obviously, as our population increases, having our topsoil decrease in production is a very, very scary thought to me, particularly as Hannah talked about for our kids and the next generation. So there has been, the farm is really approaching the idea of how to maintain soil health while creating a viable and sustainable economic model so that farmers can really thrive, because the farmers are how we get all our food and whatnot. So Sweet Bee Farm is looking at how to create or produce lots of food in a sustainable way and in a way that reinvigorates our soil. This has taken place in so many different ways. We're currently working with a Vermont composting company, and they are helping us create a composting business plan. And this is going to be a community-based composting plan. And so we're going to be trying to take scraps from the community and bring them back into the loop and feed our soils. And so that is one of the projects that I'm particularly excited about. Another one, particularly relating back to the high rate of suicide amongst farmers, we are focusing as well on nature-based mental health. And the farm has been a place for me and for others, for us to find ourselves and find a connection with the environment in which we live. And so combining those kinds of factors have been, a way that we've been trying to kind of tackle those problems. Yeah.
Thanks, Pierre. There's a question here. Can you speak a bit about the accomplishments and challenges around working with children, especially with local schools? I'm not sure if that's who the best person, maybe that's you, Pierre.
It's challenging, but it's definitely, there's a lot of interest, a lot of different schools from all ages, and people are starting to come to grips with how important local food is, and getting kids outside, and also keeping our youth in New Hampshire, which is one of the biggest problems we face, is youth, keeping youth in our community. So far our response has been, from schools has been extremely positive. We're just creating our curriculum, creating our programs, and reaching out and making those connections and trying to bring kids on farms, getting them outside and putting their hands in the soil. It's just more of a longer term project, and the barriers are there, but there are a lot of solutions, and we are working towards that.
I could just add in just a little bit. Some of the challenges, obviously, COVID-19 has been a challenge. We had to slow down some of our programming during the pandemic, and we're taking a little time, and we're going to be building them back up. And of course, just working with schools, they are bureaucratic organizations. And so there's always some barriers that are involved there. We've been really fortunate. A lot of our connections have kind of been directly with teachers, which is great, but it is dependent on that teacher rather than fully integrated into the school. So we have some work still to do to figure out exactly the direction we want to go if we really want to dig into the school system, knowing that it's a bit clunky. And I think we're still kind of figuring that out. Thank you.
Can I just add a little bit to it? I think it'll be interesting to see how, like you just mentioned, Franz, like how alternative schooling methods, homeschooling groups. So we worked with the Silver Hill Farm Schoolers who got started here in Bradford. They're doing an amazing job with just kind of alternative ways of education. So I wonder how that might factor into our future, that moving forward.
So we have just a couple minutes left. If anybody else has any questions to pop, are you seeing pushback from schools and other groups or individuals regarding your ideas?
I have not particularly, because then I've worked with some teachers and whatnot. This has not been really something I've seen a lot of pushback from. Particularly like local food and farms is something that is actually found even across the political aisle. You know, everyone really agrees and comes together around soil health and local food and farms. And so far, I have not seen any teacher organization question how we go about things and what we're really trying to communicate and educate about.
Great. And one last one here, I think, is how do you see your beliefs and practices, which have been well received locally, being recognized and accepted by our society at large? Who's going to field that one? I think Franz or Hannah, Lauren, any of you could. Franz, go.
I mean, I can start. Yeah, we can popcorn a little bit. That's a big question. I don't know if I fully have the answer, but local food and kind of what we're talking about, it's not just us that's doing this. This is happening all over the country and in fact, all over the world. And I know that for sure. So it's, you know, food hubs, for example, we're not the first ones to do this and we won't be the last. There are food hubs popping up a little bit everywhere across the country. So I think it is a trend that we're seeing a little bit everywhere. Popcorn, whomever.
I could just pop in. Tara, you're muted, so we didn't hear you. I think one thing that keeps coming up too is like farmers who have their established direct-to-consumer markets where they are doing their thing, and we don't want to replace that in any way, shape, or form. We wanted to offer a marketplace that if it was supportive to farmers and their business plan to sell wholesale through us, then we just want to be supportive, and we want to maintain the story of that food, the source of that food in our marketplace, but we in no way want to replace those direct-to-consumer markets, those farmers markets. So just making sure that we're continuing to, you know, identify how many farmers want different ways of being and serving the community, and the food hub and the sweet beet market and other things like that are just one way to do that.
So we have more questions coming in. I am taking note of them and we'll save them for the next Q&A session, which is coming up soon.
Perfect. Well, some of them might be answered in this next portion. We have a brief presentation. It's really exciting to share where we are now since the Tedx talk in 2019. So I'm going to share my screen and hand it over to Franz and Lauren to walk us through that. Oops. Here it is.
All right. So you all may already know what our mission statement is. I'm going to read it here for us, and then we're going to kind of dive into each one of the what we're calling our 3 initiatives and share some examples with you about how we're enacting our mission on a daily basis through our activities here at KFH. So our mission is to reinvigorate our community within a restorative local food system by cultivating food sovereignty, growing engaged learners, and nurturing community. So what does food sovereignty mean? Well, food sovereignty is defined as the right of peoples to healthy and culturally appropriate food produced through ecologically sound and sustainable methods, and their right to define their own food and agriculture systems. It puts the aspirations and needs of those who produce, distribute, and consume food at the heart of food systems and policies, rather than the demands of markets and corporations. And food sovereignty as a concept stretches beyond that of food security in the sense that it looks not only at the problems of access to food and need for food, but also where that food comes from and how food production and sourcing practices impact the world around us, and how those behaviors, how those decisions affect ourselves and our lives. Next slide, please. So how does Sweet Beet serve this initiative of food sovereignty? We talk about and think about Sweet Beet Farm Market and Cafe as social enterprises, and they're squarely aligned with the KFH mission. They provide the infrastructure for growing, storing, distributing, cooking, eating, and sharing local and regional foods. And they generate revenue that supports all of our other activities and throughout the organization. So through Sweet Beet Farm, for example, we grow organic produce using regenerative farming methods that work intentionally within the ecosystem and actually build healthy soil rather than detracting from it. What's more, Sweet Beet Farm is a host to the majority of our educational programming, as you've already heard, and provides an opportunity to share our vision and strategies with future generations of consumers and food system workers and activists. Even more fundamentally, the farm provides an opportunity for anyone who visits, volunteers, works there, to connect with nature and really slow down and step into the bigger picture. At Sweet Beet Market and Cafe, we serve consumers and producers both. We provide access to local foods year round, and by sourcing locally, we support farmers and food producers by sourcing those products at equitable prices, ensuring that the farmers receive fair compensation for their hard-earned goods and work. The market and cafe are also consistent, reliable points of contact with the community and provide a place for neighbors to gather and connect. The market and cafe are also economic engines, like I said before, that support the growth and development of KFH as a whole and have since the beginning. The Sweet Beet Farm Stand, Sweet Beet Market have been the drivers for growth throughout KFH since day one, and support our food donation programming as well. Next slide, please. You'll see here we've got a map that shows kind of our sourcing radius. This is specifically within 30 and 50 miles. What we do through our virtual and physical infrastructure at Sweet Beet Market is we source direct from producers through what we call our hyperlocal aggregation program, using What Goes Where, that excellent sheet. And beyond that, we also work with food hubs throughout the state and source regionally as well. And that has provided a lot of opportunities to extend reliable access into different parts of the year, and also to provide more consistent supply of goods that we may not have access to through our more local farms, because they have outlets that they rely on and prioritize for themselves. So then we have here just a kind of quick depiction of some of our purchasing and sales data, just demonstrating kind of sales or purchasing trends over the years, and also kind of to demonstrate just the variety of products that we do aggregate and sell through Sweet Beet Market. I think, yeah, next slide and on to France.
So another project that serves our food sovereignty initiative is our community fridge. What's really special about this project is that we've worked hand in hand with the Bradford Food Pantry to make sure that we're serving the true needs of our community. And so what is the community fridge? It's a free fridge. And as you can see here on the rightmost photo, it's sort of encapsulated in a little food shed. We did that to protect it during the winter time. It's located right outside of Sweet Beet Market and Cafe. And the boon to the little food shed is we were able to put in some shelves. So there's also some dry pantry goods. And it actually also created a really welcoming space for our community. And so what else does it do? It provides a no questions asked, 24 hours a day option to access local food options for our community members. This project has been extremely successful, really more so than we really thought. And in the words of our food security coordinator, Jake, it just works. And I have to say, we don't always say that at the Kearsarge Food Hub about projects and programs. And so the community fridge is addressing an important barrier to local food, which is cost. And it's really, really important for us at KFH that we address the inequity of access to local food. We want to continue exploring more ways that we can address food security. And this fridge is really just one small, simple yet effective solution towards that end. Next slide. Here we have a quote from a fridge user, and I read, "I am a Bradford resident who visits the Bradford Food Pantry every month, and I've been doing this for approximately 8 to 10 months. I have also benefited from the food closet at Sweet Beets. I have an 8-year-old son, and having access to assistance like this has been extremely helpful. The people are great, and the items are certainly very needed and appreciated. Having a resource such as this has also reduced the level of stress and worry in our home, in turn improving our quality of life. Thank you very, very much." A big theme for us as we continue to learn and grow is, what is our true impact and how do we measure it? And so we've gotten pretty good at tracking, how much food we're sending to where, and how many clients we are serving and all that good stuff. But numbers don't always tell the whole story. Getting feedback like this directly from someone who's utilizing our services helps to tell the story and gives color to what the real human impacts are. So speaking of some record keeping, here we show the growth of our food donation programs over the last couple of years. So in the leftmost graph here, you can see there's the total food donated in blue, and then in orange is what's just the produce. And as you can see, we have obviously had a huge increase in 2020. This is because we decided to double down on our food donation programming when COVID-19 hit. Now, there are two things that really differentiate our food donation programming. The first is that we primarily send what our partners order. That means that we're not just sending what's in surplus or what we have left over. We are making sure that they get what they need. And so what does that do? It minimizes waste, and it ensures that the end user is getting what they need, what they want, and what they will actually use. And secondly, as you can see, we mostly send fresh and local produce. And just last year, we sent over 20,000 pounds of produce. And this is in direct response to the need that has been communicated to us by our food pantry partners. Next slide. So our second initiative is growing engaged learners. So we share information in a multitude of fun and different ways. You kind of have in our one category, we have what we call our community of learners. It's a little bit harder to encapsulate, but we're working on that. This refers to all of the content that we create and share, both in store and online, things like our blog, our recipes, our social media, Sweet Bee Weekly, all of the content, and of course, things like this event. And then we have the second category, which is our curriculum-based educational programming for students, which for right now is mostly farm-based education. Next slide. So our focus on farm-based educational program is very intentional and comes from a very real need. We need more farmers. What this little, this graph shows here is that we have an aging farmer population. So that means that our farmers are getting older and we aren't getting new young farmers replacing those farmers. I'm not going to get into all of the reasons why this is so. But here at KFH, we believe that it is partly our responsibility to continue handing down the knowledge of how to grow food. Next slide. And so out of that sense of responsibility, KFH, in partnership with Andy and Dorothy Jeffrey, piloted the KFH apprenticeship program last year. So this is a 6-month paid opportunity for 1 or 2 aspiring farmers looking to gain experience and skills in how to run a farm. So we had an amazing year with our 2 apprentices pictured here in the middle, Cassie and Jake. We all learned a lot. It was a pilot program and everything went so well that they are now both full-time employees at KFH, an unintended but wonderful consequence of this program. And now, while we can't say that that we've necessarily grown 2 new farmers, although Jake will be farming for us this year, we have grown 2 new food system workers. And that is a very real impact of this program. And we are accepting applications. So if you know anybody, please do send them our way for this coming year. And here's Cassie, one of our apprentices. She says, as a farm apprentice this past spring, I learned that farming is much more than I once believed. If done right, it's driven by community, inspired by sustainability, and cyclical by nature. I really love this quote because this is the future that we are working towards here at KFH. Next slide, and pass it back to Lauren.
Thank you, Phyllis. So in a similar vein here, nurturing community is our third initiative listed in our mission statement. And really, ultimately, as you all know here, we do prioritize community building in so many ways. Creating meaningful connections in the community is the heartbeat and the lifeblood of our work here at KFH. We've created opportunities to connect with our neighbors through shopping at Sweet Beet Market, dining at the cafe, volunteering on Sweet Beet Farm, attending local events, and developing community partnerships. These opportunities, these connections really carry so much joy. And we're so grateful for everyone who has come to attend any of our events or patronize our Sweet Beet operations. And we're really looking forward to starting to do more community gatherings in person. Obviously, the pandemic put a bit of a damper on a lot of our plans for 2020. And we're really eager to get those back up and running. As you may know, we now are open for indoor seating again at the cafe. And we're really looking forward to another wonder season on the farm with all of our volunteers. Next slide. Another way that we are nurturing community beyond the immediate Kearsarge area community is through developing this New Hampshire Food Hub network. That's been a long-term project in process since, well, really back to 2017 when we were awarded a local food promotion program grant to basically investigate kind of all of the different production and marketing opportunities in our area and to connect with food hubs throughout the state. As a product of that research, we actually visited all of the operating food hubs and went out and connected with them and identified the need to really collaborate and connect more across those. And then in partnership with New Hampshire Food Alliance and Gorin Public Health Consulting, we also received funding in 2019 through the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program to continue this work and develop a food hub network that really mirrored the work being done in Vermont. And from there, we've started to develop more and more points of collaboration, and we're developing a memorandum of understanding and really starting, the network is really starting to get legs. We actually have our project manager is here at the event tonight, Caitlin Porter, shout out. And yeah, just KFH is one of 6 founding members of the network. Each organization is unique and located in different areas of the state. And there's also engagement of other supporting organizations too. So it's really becoming a robust network and full of brilliant, dedicated, inspiring folks. And it's really a pleasure and a huge learning opportunity for us to engage with them. We're super grateful. And part of the beauty of this network is prioritizing cooperation over competition. You'll see on this slide here is a quote from Caitlin. And really, the truth is that this network has shared belief, has shared values, and all of that is around strengthening the whole of the New Hampshire food system and beyond through prioritizing cooperation over competition, through building resiliency by aiding in shortening our supply chains, sharing resources, increasing farmer viability and equitability, and making a food system that works for all in the state of New Hampshire and beyond. Like I said before, we've learned and continue to learn so much about the local food system and regional food system through these partnerships, and we're honored to be able to contribute a little bit back as well. Back to the notes.
So as Lauren touched on, nurturing community is really at the heart of all that we do. And here I'm just going to touch on two truly amazing and unique community partnerships that really exemplify how we at KFH nurture community. So the first is Feed Kearsarge. It stands for Food Expansion, Education, and Distribution. This is a partnership that arose at the same time as COVID-19. The partners are, you can see them on the left there, many partners in New London and Warner. And so much has come out of this initiative. And I'll just talk about our flagship program, which is Tray It Forward, where seed trays are delivered to families in need and community garden sites. This will be the third year of the program. And just to give you a sense of the impact, we delivered 360 trays last year. It is no small feat. It's really, it's truly a shining example of what happens when people come together and share ideas and resources. And then we have the Abenaki Seeds Project. This one's quite near and dear to our hearts here at KFH. It was piloted last year and we're doing it again this year. We are partnering with the Abenaki Trails Project, with Warner Public Market and the Hopkinton Historical Society. We are basically connecting local growers with Abenaki heritage seeds. And then the food that is grown is going to be donated back to the Abenaki, helping Abenaki Food Pantry. The Food Hub, Kearsarge Food Hub, our role is really in the logistics. We're going to be making sure that we organize all the growers and the food and make sure that it gets to where it needs to be. And so we're really looking to further formalize and systemize the project this year so that we can create a replicable and shareable model for other communities. Yes. Right, so you've heard a lot about how we started 7 years ago with 6 founders. You've heard a bit about what we've been doing, and here's now a little snapshot of where we are today. You know, we landed on the name Kearsarge Food Hub almost before anything else, before we really knew the direction we were going or what we were going to even do. And we kind of knew that it was a big name and that we had to grow into it. It's like the shoes didn't quite fit. And then now when I look at the fact that we are now a community that's made up of 24 employees, 8 board members, 84 monthly donors, 419 donors, over 45 volunteers, over 3,000 customers, more than 36 community partners, 5 active shared initiatives, 78 New Hampshire vendors in Sweet Beet, and over 330 families served with our food donation programs. I think to myself that the shoes are starting to fit. The shoes are starting to fit. Now, of course, we still have so much to grow into and to grow towards. But honestly, with all of you by our side, we really believe that we can accomplish almost anything. And so now I'm going to pass it along over to Hannah, who's going to talk a little bit about where we're headed. Thank you, everybody.
Franz, that was beautiful. Lauren, Franz, thank you so much for a beautiful presentation. So much amazing work made possible by so many amazing people. And I'm just going to quickly go over a few points of our vision for the future, because we're learning as we grow, and that means it continues. There's no end point really to learning. That is really one of our values. So stabilization and sustainability for us, I mean, like Franz mentioned, we aren't the same kind of scrappy startup that we were 7 years ago. We are a nonprofit organization now, and with a whole lot of responsibility wrapped up there. And so we're focusing on stabilization and sustainability in terms of our organization for the long-term health and vitality of KFH and for all of our people. And this year we're working on some really exciting stuff with our organizational values and leadership training. Tara has been such a leader in all of this for us here at KFH. And it's kind of gearing up to write that strategic plan. You know, I joked in the TED Talk that we didn't have a business plan, and we didn't really, but we're working toward our way of really solidifying these things, being more professional and more sophisticated in our systems. And as we look ahead, as we look forward, listening and learning continues to be a guiding star for us. Listening means taking the time to understand the true needs of our community and those we seek to serve. We've been working on this, but there's so much more to grow into in terms of tracking and assessing our impact, really understanding what works, what doesn't work, with our community partnerships, really working together to figure out how to not duplicate efforts, but to each kind of serve our role, and designing systems for gathering and integrating feedback. You know, this means, like was mentioned before, listening to families struggling with food insecurity. What is helpful to you, rather than assuming that we already know what people need. And that's going to be a real focus for us moving forward. And finally, just this concept of co-creating. Somebody, it might have been France, mentioned earlier that we're not the first to do this and we won't be the last. And it's the goal for us is inclusivity, collaboration, cultivating a heartbeat where everybody feels welcome, everybody has a role, everybody has a voice. And that's going to mean paying extra attention and listening to our community, and continuing to grow a community that honors the earth and our shared humanity. And we're learning so much from so many mentors and traditions in that vein. And no small task, but aligning our systems with our values. You know, once we really know what our values are, how do we build systems that will last, that actually serve those values? And so, in order to look forward, it's worth mentioning that we are growing our team. And we just thought you all are such a great group of folks to mention that we are hiring at the Kearsarge Food Hub. It's tough out there for organizations who are hiring, for sure. And if you know anybody who is looking for, you know, work for the soul is what we call it. So we have opportunities across the organization on Sweet Bee Farm, in the cafe, and kind of more broadly as an administrative assistant. These people that we bring in are going to be absolutely key to carrying out our vision for the future and growing our capacity to serve our community. So please do pass it on if you know of anybody who might like to join our team. And just a couple other notes of kind of how to get involved and keep our connections going. We would love to see you in the Market and Cafe at 11 West Main Street. Many of you already do come see us there. Lauren mentioned that the community room is open and people are welcome in, and we have a monthly art feature now where local artists are represented each and every month in the space. And that's just been such a treat. Cassie's been doing a great job getting that up and running. We have our annual report coming soon, very, very soon. And so we're really eager to send that over to you with more of the data. Lauren shared some amazing data really about, you know, 2021 and what that was for us. And we're gonna deliver more of that to you in the annual report. You can check out our employment and volunteer opportunities. We have lots of amazing volunteer opportunities. Again, our volunteers are integral to this work if you go to that link there. And I believe Tara is going to pop some links in the chat as well to send you over. And last but not least, Pierre has been working super hard on our microgreens. They've become such an emblem of Sweet Beet Farm, and they're really amazing. Like truly, I don't go any amount of time in my house without microgreens in the fridge. So we have a really special opportunity that we're kind of just pitching to you all right now, which is our Sunny Sampler Csa. I do believe that a Don Moss might have been, Sue and Don might have been a pilot CSA member last year. Let us know how that went, Sue and Don. But we'd love for you to sign up to get, you know, microgreens each and every week. They are so delicious and packed with nutrition and grown with love. So that's a great opportunity. We'll pop that link in the chat for you too. And thus ends presentation number 3.
Well, just a couple of words from having visited the original farm stand as it was being built. I've thought, the food's great, but even bigger is the passion and love and sincerity of everybody who's worked on the project. And I totally applaud what you've done. I think you have miles yet to go, and certainly a great team to get it done with.
Thank you so much, Harry. We had a quote of yours on our website for a while. I'm not sure if it's still there, but you've been cheering us on since day one. So thank you so much.
We have some more questions, Hannah.
Question time. Yes. So questions. We have a few more minutes. We have questions coming in the chat. We're happy to answer. And then if you're up for it, we have a couple questions for you all to answer. So Tara, do you want to kick us off with questions?
Yeah, I'll give you a few because they are holdovers from the last question and answer session. So one question was, and I'm going to toss this to Lauren. What are your 2022 goals?
We have a lot of them. Yeah, I would say kind of the overarching themes that we're really focused on and have been kind of through our budgeting and planning processes and are today as well, obviously, is really stabilizing, like Hannah said, stability and breathing a little bit of spaciousness into our operations in the interest of the secret sauce. Slowing down, taking the time to step back, all of that. We need a little bit of stability to help ground us in that a little bit more. We've been, since we started in 2015, it's been a bit of a marathon of sprints. And, over the past 2 years, we've grown exponentially, both in size of staff, as well as in our operations and, the volume of food that we move and the number of activities that we do. So our primary goal is really to stabilize. So we've been really trying to practice slowing down, giving ourselves more time, and focusing on making these social enterprises financially viable. Each one of them financially viable, so that not only can each support its own operations, which are part of our mission, certainly, but also can contribute back to the whole of the organization and support more of the activities that don't generate revenue. So the food donations, the educational programming, things like that. So I would say those are 2 high level goals: stabilizing and viability, financial viability of our operations.
Great. Thank you, Lauren. Another question. What kind of relationships do you have with other farmers in the area? Are any of them resistant to what you are trying to achieve? I think Franz would be a great person to answer that, potentially. Were you raising your hand, Franz?
Yeah, I can answer that. We have, I like to think we have really good relationships with our farmers. We have spent a lot of time making sure that we are talking to them, connecting with them, and purchasing from them. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that money is going straight into their pockets as often as we can. And then the other part is everybody on board with what we're doing. I think there are no efforts that everybody is on board with. I think that we have come onto the scene and we have disrupted some things. And I think it's important to acknowledge that. One of the things that we've, as Lauren touched on, the New Hampshire Food Hub network, one of the things, so we're not a food distribution food hub, but we work with food hubs who distribute food, trucking and all of that. So those food hubs are bringing food from further away. And there is some concern that that they're supplanting some of the food that can be grown here. And so it's something that we know about. It's something that we're very aware of, and it's something that we're continuously talking to our farmers, making sure that we're not displacing their sales as much as we possibly can. But I think overall we have a really amazing relationship with our fellow farmers. We share information. They've taught us so much, especially those first few years, but still now. We couldn't have done it without them. And in turn, we try to share things that we're learning or resources that we're able to get, that we've been given or what have you. And we like to give back to our farmers. Thanks.
Thank you, Franz. There's a great question in here. I do not see a lot of young people online here. How do you work to get others in your age group involved? Who would like to take that? Pierre.
I think something that I've focused on a lot, I mean, obviously, especially in terms of the farming thing, it is a great idea, and it has its own appeal, but I think making jobs that are actually economically viable is a huge, economic speaks. And I think that's part of what Lauren was just touching on, which was like stabilizing and establishing systems for all our different programs and whatnot, and making those also communicable so that young people can be inspired and also find a future in those things. Right now, farming, as I was mentioning before, is something that most people are not necessarily enthusiastic to get involved in. And so the more we show the potential in those enterprises, the more I think young people will kind of catch on and be like, hey, I actually couldn't see my life going in this direction. So I think, yeah, as much as we can show an economically viable model, I think that will be very attractive to the younger generation.
Hannah. Thank you, Pierre.
Thank you, Pierre. I think too, we've made a lot of effort to put ourselves out there, you know, to young people of all ages. So we start young, you know, with the Bradford first graders. We say, come hang out at Sweet Beet. And the connections that we make with those first graders, like, they never forget. And so I feel like we're trying to, you know, get young people, really young people involved, and show them, you know, what's possible, or connect them to nature and get them all energized. Some of the programs that were near and dear to our hearts, like the John Stark Equity Program, unfortunately is no longer with us, but thinking of, you know, that's one example of a program that no longer is happening, that, like Franz mentioned, when you're connected with the teacher and it's not so ingrained, those things kind of slip away. But Pierre also mentioned working on curriculum for more ages to really get young kids at middle school age, high school age, and we'll figure out what that actually means for us in the future. But those are the ages that are going to be really important to be like, hey, come stick around. There's a great documentary that we were a part of called Communities and Consequences Part 2, which is you can find through New Hampshire PBS, which really does kind of outline this. And those folks who made that documentary, Lorraine Merrill wrote the book, and the whole team is still continuing conversations to figure out how to keep young people in New Hampshire, how to create opportunities. And it's interwoven with a lot of issues. Housing is a huge one. You know, where are people going to live? So it's very connected, but there are a lot of great folks working on it out there.
I'll have to echo that to what Hannah was just saying about housing. That's a really, really big deal. It's really hard to find affordable housing right now. And for our apprenticeship, for example, we're looking at candidates and they have to be able to find a place to live. And Warner and WPM, and particularly Brett, has been working on affordable housing, and they're going to be hopefully providing a place where the rent will be close to $300 or $350 a month. And I think that makes it a lot more affordable and allows potentially some younger people to stick around, do work that they're passionate about, and again, making it economically viable for them. So I think that's a big hole in our local economy, is affordable housing for young people to stick around. So thanks for mentioning that, Hannah.
So there's another question here. And it's, do you need more land to farm? Are there plans to expand the farming that you're doing?
I guess I could speak to that a little bit. I think for us, no, but I think for others, yes. I think as students come through our programs and as we find more people that want to start small businesses and have access to land. Access to land is also something, a social equity issue that is extremely important, and not everyone has the ability to have access to that. So I think that us knowing that there's land accessible and we can try to make those connections with students or different people that have interest in pursuing an agricultural enterprise.
Great. So are there any last questions before I kick it back to Hannah to wrap us up? Okay, thank you so much for all the great questions. It was wonderful.
Yeah, that was awesome. We will pop it back over just quickly to, oh dear, did I X out of it because I was looking up communities and consequences? Let me find it real quick. I just want to pop up the last slide real quick just to give you, again, information on how to get involved. Actually, you know what? Let's just use the chat because you put it in the chat, Tara. So there are linkable links in the chat. Go visit our Get Involved page if you're interested in some amazing volunteer opportunities, job opportunities, signing up for our email communications, which many of you already receive. And yeah, visit us at Sweet Beet Marketing Cafe, and we're really excited for all sorts of amazing programs coming out. We have our Abenaki Seeds Project collaboration gearing up. We have Spring Ledge Farm. Greg's here. He's planting or has planted all of the seedlings for Tray It Forward because Spring Ledge Farm carries that program in that way, and it's such a beautiful thing. So we're going to be distributing all those wonderful seedling trays in collaboration with those partners. And we're really excited for what the future holds, and we're really excited to connect with you. And keep an eye on your email for our 2021 annual report. It's definitely going to be coming out very soon, and we're really excited about that.
There's a baby.
There's Olivier.
There's a baby. Oh,
The star of the show.
I know.
And we do have, as you know, we are a nonprofit organization. Many of you here are donors. We are so grateful to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for your support. If anybody's inspired to make a donation, please feel free to follow the link in the chat. Any and every amount makes a huge difference. And not to mention, again, the microgreen Sunny Sampler. That is definitely something you're going to want to sign up for. So link in the chat for that as well. And we're going to follow up with you after the event. So all of this information will be available post-event. Thanks, everybody, for joining.
Thank you, Hannah.
Treat.
Thank you, Pierre, Franz, Tara.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Vicky. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Awesome
Right at
job,
8
guys.
o'clock. Let the record show. It's right at 8 o'clock. We finished on time.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Well
Thank
done.
you so much for coming.
done.
Awesome job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Are you watching Baby or what?
Baby's here.
Oh.
Lucky.
Oh, there he is. And Garrett.
Look, there's Olivia. See?
Hi guys. Great job, everyone.
can't
You
see.
rocked it.
Hi, Garrett.
Thank you.
Hi, Olivier.
I need to catch more of this baby before I sign off.
Hi, Abby.
Little after party action.
Hi, the screen keeps
Look at
changing.
him.
Okay, there's the baby.
He's just like Garrett.
Oh,
There is the baby.
We'll spotlight it for everyone.
Wow.
He's
good.
big. Look.
Oh,
Uh-oh. He's hungry. He's hungry. Bye, everyone. You look so sad. Oh, no, it's round.
I love you.
He looks
Okay,
exactly
bye
like
everyone. Bye bye.
his parents. Dabney,
Yeah.
Ross's mom.
Yeah.
She's the one that has
Everyone.
a lab from
Hi,
Mel.
Ellen.
Oh, yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Say hi, Ellen.
Hello.
It's Margie.
Hi, Margie. I saw your name.
Nice to see
Thanks for
you.
coming.
Absolutely. I'm a big supporter of you guys. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
I'm gonna
I'm
stop
still seeing
recording.
Dabney. Kisses.